r/I'm I'm Bill Nye, and I'm here to, dare I say it, save the world. Ask me anything. Hi Bill. Thanks for doing this. I've got a question. I know that maybe it's not specifically in your field, but I would still appreciate your thoughts as someone trying to save the world. To what extent do you envisage automation replacing common jobs anytime soon? On a large scale? If this is accomplished, do you think it will be a current player, Amazon/Google/Tesla? Something completely left field no one expected? Or a community effort from thousands of small to medium-sized enterprises working together? Thanks. Self-driving vehicles seem to me to be the next big thing. Think of all the drivers who will be able to do something more challenging and productive with their workday. They could be erecting wind turbines, installing photovoltaic panels, and running distributed grid power lines. Woohoo. Just like horses were able to take on more challenging and productive work after cars replaced carriages and buggies. Thanks so much for being here. Any chance of working with Disney again on the Energy Pavilion at Epcot? Lots of people would love to see an update based on everything we know about the subject now as opposed to 20 years ago, especially if you had something to say. Not my choice. Please ask the Disneyans to refresh the ride. It was a fun job. It was sponsored by Exxon, while they still owned a division that made bearings for wind turbine generators. And before their climate denial documents from 1977 were discovered and published in the New York Times. I'd love to do a new show though. Hands down the best Disney ride when you need a half hour to sit and chill. First, thanks for making science class so great in middle school. I still have that theme song stuck in my head. What is our worst case scenario assuming nothing gets done to save the world, and what does the timeline look like? How much is my life going to be affected? My kids? I know we need to do something. But what if it doesn't work out? The quality of life for people everywhere will go down. There will be less food and less clean water available in the developed and the developing world. It's reasonable that this will lead to conflict, more violence, more war. Here in the super developed US, people will have to abandon homes in Miami, Galveston, Norfolk, and other coastal towns. It will lead to defaulted mortgages and people looking for jobs inland. Where will those jobs come from? Sooner we get to work the better. How do you plan to reach out to those in rural or underdeveloped communities in the nation and worldwide to educate them on conservation? Despite the fact that corporations and companies are the biggest polluters, things change when millions of people decide to put a common cause above the individual selves. Hey Bill. What are your thoughts on animal agriculture and the promotion of a vegan diet as to reduce our impact on climate change? Plant-based diets are the future. I look forward to food preparations that are not derivative bits, as we say in comedy writing, instead of coconut bacon. For example, I hope there is just delicious standalone coconut preparations. Cooking is a competitive business. I look forward to the emergence of new plant-based dishes. What are your thoughts on lab-grown meats? Bill. Should I continue being a paramedic or just go for it and try to become an emergency department physician? Edit. Spelling. The ambulance gets bouncy and I got a 911 call as soon as I type this. Go for it. People seldom regret what they do. They, or we, regret what we don't do. People seldom regret what they do. Sounds like you've never mistaken your blender for your rotating fleshlight. Actually, I have a big question for you. I'm sure you still very clearly remember your debate with creationist Ken Ham. I'm a Christian, but personally do not agree with his views on creation. I'm more of a Christian Scientist in that I chalk up the creativity of science to God. He's responsible for the Big Bang billions of years ago. He's responsible for the creativity behind evolution. And all of the stuff that makes science so awesome are like his fingerprints. Now you, as the awesome scientist that you are, do you think that there is any room in science for that line of thinking? Has it ever crossed your mind that there may be a higher power at work? I won't take offense at your answer. I can't. No one can. Prove there is no higher power. It's the age-old philosophical point that one cannot prove a negative. Whether or not there is a higher power. There is no question that the earth cannot possibly 6,000 years old. Teaching kids that idea is bad for our future. But worse is teaching kids that the earth is cooling rather than warming. All this is made possible in Kentucky by their having elected a creationist governor, who appointed a creationist cabinet, which was in turn enabled by a creationist judge. In any other state or commonwealth, the non-profit businesses run by Mr. Ham would be in conflict without First Amendment. It will take years to undo the wrong-headed teaching of the kids in the commonwealth. But the longest journey begins with but a single step. Thanks for writing. If you are really in touch with the higher power, ask her or him to straighten these Kentuckians and immigrant Australian out. Entertainingly enough, I live in Kentucky now, and it is very one-minded here. Makes a lot of things very difficult. Thanks for answering. Hey Bill. I mean no disrespect, but why are there so many stories of you being an asshole to people in public? As someone that has met Bill in real life, I thought he was a nice dude. At the same time, you have to remember that Bill Nye the Science Guy is a character he performs for an audience. That's not who he is 24/7. He's an intelligent guy that deals with a lot of meme-ish behavior from his adoring fans, which must get tiresome. I could be mistaken on this one, but I think he cares much more about pushing his agendas forward than he does about maintaining his celebrity status. If he could magically trade in his celebrity for progress on reversing the changes of global warming, I think he'd do it in a heartbeat. Normal actors are the other way around. They put up with your bullshit so they can still be famous. I don't think there's conflict between not being an asshole and wanting to change the world though. A lot of stories about him are in the category of cursing at kids and being a mean person, even before he was famous. Rather than Bill Nye didn't want to pose for a picture or talk to a total stranger and is therefore like Hitler except worse. Hey there Bill. Was curious. What was your favorite episode of the old Bill Nye the Science Guy show? There must have been one episode you did that stood out to you more than others. Nope. When you get your job as a dancer on Broadway, don't ever tell people who your favorite dance partner is. Otherwise, you won't get a chance to dance with anyone else. There is something in every episode that I just love. The spit taken notion life cracks me up, as does the screaming skull I'm holding in bones and muscles. And who doesn't love passing out in a fighter plane pulling 7.5 Gs? That is an excellent answer. Hey Bill. What's your take on our chances of becoming a multi-planetary civilization in the foreseeable future? Infinitesimal. If you think you want to live on Mars, try living in the dry valleys of Antarctica for a few years. And to play fair, you have to bring your own air to breathe. Inhaling the local atmosphere on Mars would kill you in an instant. You'd never go outside. Not really. You'd live in some dome. And when you go out, you have to be in a spacesuit, which is just another dome. Only really tight fitting. Oh. And there is absolutely nothing to eat. You'd never go outside. Not really. Awesome. So I wouldn't have to make any major lifestyle change. Hi Bill. You're doing great work. My questions for you are: what is your favorite element and favorite subatomic particle? What scientific mystery do you most want to solve? Favorite element? Don't have one. But I'm fond of the compound water. In fact, now that I've sipped it, I don't think I could live without it. Subatomic particle? Not sure. But I'd sure like to know if there are particles associated with dark matter. Darkens? See, when I make that joke about liking water so much I couldn't live without it, people just sigh and shake their heads. When Bill Nye the Science Guy comes along and does the same joke, the world adores him. I can't catch a break. We've heard the chant of your name even way I over here in New Zealand. Just a small question. Favorite astronomy point in the night sky? Thanks for your support. I don't have a favorite. Saturn is beautiful. And I'm fond of the Earth's moon. You spelled it both ways, you absolute ducking gent. Hi Bill. With the March for Science coming up on April 22nd, many scientists are hesitant to march because they fear it will politicize science. What are your thoughts on politicization of science? Will you be marching? People seem too afraid of politicizing science a lot lately. I agree to an extent. Science should not be a political issue as it is really just our best gauge of reality. However, in recent decades, science has been under attack and forced into being a political issue. It is not our choice whether or not this happens. It's happened already. Our best course of action is to defend science, since it is constantly under attack by ignorance, closed-mindedness, and bullheaded paranoia. It's very important that we defend science. Except that based on tweets from the people running the event, they aren't limiting it to politicizing science. They are trying to tack on other causes and include them in the umbrella of science. What's your opinion on marijuana? I would also really like Mr. Nye's input on this. I'm sure he will be hesitant given he is a bit of a role model who influences young people interested in pursuing a career in science. But nevertheless, I'm really interested in what his take on it is. Mr. Nye, how tall are you? Where do you shop for ties? I grew up in a bow tie family. I want a Bill Nye Science Guy signature bow tie. Check out nickgraham.com. Consider buying our ties. Bill Nye the Science Tie. Can you please run for president? Traditionally, we hired people to be president who had some experience in government. So, I'm probably not the right guy for the job. I hope more and more of us can now see that governing is not the same as running business or trying to run a business. The government cannot declare bankruptcy 6 times. For example, a US president is not like a king. He or she cannot decree laws unilaterally. It takes consensus. And that is generally not quite the same as a negotiation for a piece of property. I hope more and more of us can see that governing is more complicated than closing a single business deal. Your outlook here is exactly why you'd be a better president than our current one. Bill Nye. My AAAS membership led me to the IDP career test at sciencecareers.org. I'm 27 years old, and I'm finally considering a college education. My top result is science education for non-scientists, of which I believe you have ample experience. How would you suggest entering this career field? Would any specific college major help, or will any science-based major suffice? Would you ever consider letting an individual, such as myself, job shadow you for a couple days? Lastly, do you plan to attend this year's Star Talk Saturnalia party? I'm also a member of the Planetary Society and have to thank you and your team for your science advocacy. I look forward to watching Bill Nye Saves the World. Keep up the great work. Bonus question. Have you heard of the Show About Science podcast run by 6-year-old, yes only 6, Nate Butkus? I would love to hear you interviewed on his show. You have been an inspiration since my youth. I know you'd inspire him also. Be sure you can do algebra. It is a key to success in a technical field. I work in a writer's room these days. If you want to do what I do now, look for a job as a television writer. Thanks for being a member of the Planetary Society. We advance space science and exploration. Let's know the cosmos and our place within it. Star Wars or Star Trek? Stargate. What is the best way a normal person can make a positive impact in their daily life for global climate change? Go vegan. Why does veganism as a solution to better the planet always get downvoted? It truly is a simple way people can make a difference in the world. Even just reducing the amount of meat you consume improves the planet. Sure, it's not easy at first, but implementing one plant-based meal a week and increasing that at your own pace is great for the environment. Don't be ignorant. I look at vegan haters the same way as climate change deniers. Hey Bill. Do you think your TV show has helped or hurt the messages you're trying to spend? Does your reputation make people listen or tune out? I hope people coming of age have respect for the process of science, in part because of my show or shows. If not, I guess I've failed. But I did and continue to do my best. Check out Bill Nye Saves the World, which starts on Friday on Netflix. There are 13 episodes. Binge 'em and turn it up loud. I don't know how your show could have possibly hurt the message that science rules. Carry on, my dude. Ducking like and subscribe.